Hey, muy buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. And as always, muchísimas gracias to everyone for your guys' words, prayers, and for your amazing support. De corazón se los agradezco. Gracias. Now, to get into the story on hand. Today, I want to talk about a big conflict that at one time uprose in Orange County. But before I get into it, allow me to start off with, you know, before I hit Mexico, I was on the yard with Sana. I got a lot of schooling from him. He's actually the reason why I took on the responsibility to come out this way, right? He's also the one that gave me clecha on how the difference from what I was used to how Mexico was going to be. Not to the full extent, right? Because he was never wiggling down here, but nevertheless, he was aware of how things were, at least from boca to ear, right? So, anyways, he gave me a lot of clecha in that aspect, and I had a lot of respect for this individual. Cause, I know a lot of people can't really put the difference between a tecato and a dope fiend, but for example, Sana was a tecato, self-claimed one, right? But again, we come from a world of got it, right? Game banging. So all that drug using is not really a factor till it starts becoming one, right? For example, this Billy right here, he was able to function on the yard without having to do that extra, right? It could have been because of his reach, because his ability to connect to things, his support, whatever it was. That he loved Negra, he loved it, right? But at least to some extent, it never allowed him to take over him like that, right? As to other things, another factor could have been that he had a lot of weight within the organization. But anyways, I wanted to start off with this because I know, a lot of people, when I speak my story, do understand it's my story, right? It's what I personally lived through. All that comadre, he said, she said stuff, I tend to stay away from, right? But anyways, again, this was a big, if you want to say issue, or it goes back to greed, right? Which was Frijol or Armando Moreno. Yeah, he felt he was strong enough and had that power to mainly take over Orange County, cause there's a lot of loyal camaradas, from the county, and there's a lot of money, But if we go back a little further, there's been a little history when it came to Sana. This wasn't his first rodeo, nor do I believe was his last one, right? As I will later touch on. But anyways, throughout the years, I remember when I was sailed up with Little Bullet, there was a big issue with Bullet, right? And Chango, and there was a few camaradas from Orange County that were back there, and things were being presented for Musclehead and Max, from B&E. Because for a while, even though Max had already taken that dive, he was still playing the part to do what they do when they do that, right? Take as much possible to go ahead and shake. So a lot of people were being questioned when it came to listening to this individual, right? Now the help when it came to Bullet and them came from an individual that, he had his sights on not taking over, but getting in Orange County, to some extent. and it was Woody from Seven O's, right, from Compton. He actually supported them on how there was no way of them knowing they were there just in the hole. So when it came to being ordered to do a hit or XX things, right, in Lancaster, they had no choice but to obey, because there would have been no questioning if they would have gone against. But anyways, this fell through, and as you guys know, within time, I went through Tehachapi, Corcoran, and when I was in Corcoran, specifically, right before I left, Armando was a camarada, right? And he was he was there. A lot of people seem to throw this on him in that aspect that he from one day to the next decided to get greedy and move on Sana, right? Which in reality it wasn't the case. There was a little crush already out there when it came to Daryl, old man from Watt, that at this time were in Corcoran, and I personally seen them appease to the point where they were gonna push for him, right? And they wanted certain things to get better in Orange County, at least when it came to allowing camaradas to feel they had that authority or power to question a Pili that happened to go through there, right? Because years back, there was a big supporter of Sana, which I seen a lot of people talk about this camarada as he made it up there, right? But from the Bay and everything, as far as I know, he was always just a campolero that supported Sana, which is art, right? And again, this individual, he went out his way to do as much possible when it came to doing things and getting away with them, being smart about certain things, right? And the one thing you can't take from this individual is that in Mexico it's real rare of a Pili to have jalon with certain factions, because these factions they tend to do their own, right? Stay away from certain things. But Art got Sana to actually start pulling from Tamaulipas, from El Golfo. And again, it's something that not a lot of people could say, right? So he was opening them pipelines, but everything was being done for Sana under Sana's name. And it's, as much as I always say, as much as Apili's, he's good, you gotta remember it's a snake world, right? And they have to wiggle or sidetrack, finesse into them rules and regulations to stay afloat. Which you gotta give credit to the old man, right? He always played his card right to maintain that power. Anyways, it was never a problem. I met a lot of older camaradas from Orange County, like Smurf, Beto, well, just leave a lot, right? Chaparro, that when they talked about addressing art, there was a big respect there, because he basically ran a whole bunch of hoods, right, for Sana when it came to supplies and everything. But the mistake came when I guess he disrespected a old man from Watts, to the sense that he was helping Sana with the county, and he felt he was more entitled to the Orange County jail Then no man from what? Which of course, that wasn't gonna happen. A made member, a camarada. It's just, it don't matter how much who you have with another member. It's just, when a member's present, he comes first and foremost. If whoever could push, but if they're not there, it's just not gonna lead to nowhere, right? It is why, in that sense, the loyalty they had for Sana, it showed. Anyways, when Barry pushed with Daryl, with them and Corcoran, this was years before, Mando was there. It became an issue as greed, from all those always come into effect. For example, a guy from the feds is still out with full control of something in the state, which in reality is look wrong, right? At least in the sense of greed, of power, hunger, however you want to look at it. So of course they started, not in the open, but let it be known that that type of power was something that Sana was permitting. But let's just say, the time I was up there, that Romo was there, he was always back and forth. What I mean is, he would get clearance, from his explanation, and somehow, some way, it will flare up that he tried to be superior than Barry, and he went back to being on the shine. But what always brought him back is that he had those avenidas, right, to connect when it came to all them candies that come with the territory, you know, from dulce, from juguetes, all that, He was a real strong individual when we spoke about conectas, just being sincere. But it's the first time that I got to see the sidewine in Sana, right? Again, my respects. I always thought he was a good old man. He helped me out a lot. But things are what they are, right? And it's how I always speak about not being allowed to get misled, used, lied. Most importantly, don't waste your life like Romo did, right? He did it for whatever reason, right? And he wasn't the only one. There was a lot of them from F Troop, from Santa Anita, from Del High, because years earlier, those that don't know the little power struggle that Musclehead and Sana went through for the same reason. The only ones that you hardly heard them being questionable by Sana was Alley Boys and certain other things, but it's because they fell under Sporty and Big Joe, right? So it was addressed directly towards them. But anyways, this happened with Romo, right? And they questioned Sana, of course, They questioned Sana, and that's where the backsliding, sidewinding comes in. Telling him, no, I didn't give him that much power. Don't know if he cut us in with the state or county or whatever he had done, and he had those connectors. He feels he could dictate his program, and he was asked, so I guess hacemos, it's not for me to decide. You guys decide. His punishment basically left him alone. A solid soldado that, not by my boca, but numerous camaradas that I personally spoke to, everything he did was for Sana, right? To the dot. It was for the benefit of keeping his power in Orange County. But Sana was not going to put himself in the line of fire for a camarada. Let's just be sincere. Especially when you're talking about, man from Watts, Daryl, Hardy at the times where he had Jews. Because, again, years later it flared out, right? A lot of people speak about mando and just being power hungry, but nah. He had that gusanito or gusanitos in his ears, right? Because they felt it was time that a lot different people are able to get in the county without having someone to push back. And again, it goes back to the old man being a tecato, but being firme to some extent, right? Just of course, in that world is not what a lot of us tend to think of it, right? Which is la causa, la movida. We look out for todos. It's always make a homie, be there for a homie. But in reality, they're quick to allow you to drown because they're not gonna put their skin in the line for a camarada. You've seen it play out on different occasions, right? With different pilis, and they ended up getting removed completely, right? Because it's just something that's gonna take a pili's career. It's just so much ingrained in their movement that, we could say, I personally sat for over 20 years convincing myself daily, day in, day out that that's how things were. And never come on here by saying I was a smart individual because I wasn't. A brave one, nah. That either. It took me a long time, and unfortunately, a loved one to get caught up that didn't have no type of business in it, right? But anyways, years later, Armando started his movement. But see, it started way before how people speak about Chino and how they disrespected and he lit Chino on fire or he had the camaradas, right? Something to that extent. Uh, and it happened before that. You see, by this time, um, there was two camaradas specifically that were already with them, which was Downer and Belon, I believe. And they started trying to claim certain yards, right, for Frijol or Armando. And it's how we knew that he had gotten blessed, right? Makes were being run and everything checked out, and to be sincere, don't know if that moving with negros as a kid was a big factor. The factor, as far as I heard it, right, was that he was trying to pull out from the normal wigglings, which was, you know, the movement in Mexico. I don't know, maybe in different states. He was pulling a lot of camaradas from Marine power to fall under his name, to have a lot of who. And, one thing they have is they can never see another member shine more than them. They knew the Vato, if he pulled the Armenians, the Russians were going to come along. And yeah, those that know about the Russians, them fools, weapons is their strong arm, right? And it was just something that they didn't like. In my personal opinion, it had nothing to do with his gang affiliation, because again, before they blessed him, he was a camarada and he had him set good. He went out like a weenie, but he had him set at that time good on him, right? Is why he was respected. He was a moneymaker too. He was just one of them hungry because he felt he had the means. But at least these two camaradas that I'm mentioning, to me, I heard their name since 2005 around there. And real good Torica right up there throughout my pills. And my surprise was the the listas, no good listas that came from Orange County at this time, man. I've never seen like them listas come out from a county the way they were at this time. See, what I want people to understand, everybody in the state was rooting for Armando. To be sincere, even in conversations up there, it was being talked on them, you know, taking over Orange County, or at least what he wanted in Orange County, right? And why? Because again, they pushed on Sana what he was meant to do, right? Which was put in Orange County since he was not questionable, and put a camarada out there and state he made him into a carnal, which I'm referring to puppet, right? And again, this vato feels he's that much in good that he starts dictating things on camaradas, right? Negative things. And of course, there's a pushback. And you know, those that know the wigglings of puppet, they know what cost them to false claim per se that he was a member, right? But this came into play as Armando thing. But the worst thing that came into play with Armando was that a lot of people don't seem to know he weaned out before that big decision came down on him, that supposedly it was for the honor of Sana, which is lies, right? It's because there was already a appeal that Armando was already talking. He had already said, I'm out. Why? Because, you know, he might have had a lot of support from the state, but he was heading to the federal system. And, you know, just being real, he wasn't going to be able to maintain very long because of Sana. You know, so that's what ultimately, you know, he put the rope around himself. And again, it was Sana's worker that made this chaos, that had all this feria, all these camaradas, you know, because right after this, everyone under Armando was done. You know, and there was that conversation where certain individuals got hit because of Armando that were under Sana. And, you know, Sana had the opportunity to speak for them, but he didn't. You know, I wasn't there for this conversation, but later on in the years, it was just, you know, they were defeated in the Señor's words, right? And, you know, one rotten apple will ruin the whole sack, right? Whatever that meant. But, you know, I thought it was just funny how things come out, you know, on the internet. And there's a lot more backtrack to it. You know, for example, Tehachapi was a hotbed. You know, we were getting the reports in Pelican Bay when it came to camaradas from Orange County hitting Tehachapi and how they were getting whacked. Corcoran. And them listas, you know. But just to speak shortly about two individuals. Two that followed not just Armando's callings, but they were aware who they were going against, so they were being smart in the sense filtering other carnales conversations, right, that were supporting this movement. And how when push came to shove, that didn't mean anything. It is why I always say, you know, Be wise when you allow someone to get in your head, like I did. I'm not saying do this, do that, go out like this. Nah. Just, analyze the situation that's being told to you and be smarter. And, look at Downer Pelon for being loyal. Man, I remember I read the report when they got hit. Sin deberla y temerla, right? They're their own man. They decided to buck up and support, so it comes with the territory. But for one to lock it up on them, and the other one ain't gonna hear you, regardless you following a carnal, that's meaningless. That has no meaning. You know, you did wrong. They're not there to question another carnal, right? So just be smart. Anyways, mi gente, ay, por favor, disculpen, I started that medication and oh my god, but I'm here. I just thought I'd put something out to expand a little bit more on my message. I want to send my love, my prayers to everyone. Do please do stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones. Muy buenas noches.